Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, sir. How you doing this Thursday evening?
I am glad I remembered. I will put it frank. I had an extra day off this week, and so I feel like every day I'm not as close to Friday as we are. So and the fact that we didn't record last week, I got into a rhythm, and so I am just glad I showed up on time.
I am glad you did. You were actually, you were waiting for me today. I was just like, oh boy, I'm running late here. But miss talking to you though. I know we talked some over the break, but it's good to chat with you about a few little things this evening.
Yeah, we definitely talked over the break, but it was funny because we both really did enjoy our time. I mean, we love the shows that we talk about.
Yeah.
Or else why would we spend an hour every week? But you went off the deep end on sports.
I did.
And I'm just K-pop train full steam ahead. So.
Yeah, if you guys follow us on socials, I mean, I'm sure you probably see Sarah as like prolific. I mean, I haven't seen you tweet like this in a long time with all the K-pop stuff.
But it's not tweeting. All
retweeting,
I do is retweet.
I know, but even when I say tweeting, I mean retweet, tweet, whatever. It's just like you are a machine.
I'm sorry, but I'm really not sorry.
I
don't even really understand what the consequences or benefits of my retweeting are, but it just feels good. It feels supportive.
Yeah.
And so on that note, we'll actually talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know where to go from there, but man, so Spider-Man is basically the headline, and I hope that honestly, as much as I love Spidey, I hope that Spider-Man goes away for a few weeks before the big movie comes out. I don't foresee that happening.
No.
Because I'm already like, okay, let's just rip up the Band-Aid, let all the spoilers loose. Let's see this movie because the hype, it's just too much. It's too much hype. Yeah. I feel like I'm doomed to be disappointed in this movie. But the good news is that all of the or I don't know, Will always likes to rain on my parade. So it was kind of leaked out that actually they do intend to make more Tom Holland Spider-Man movies with the MCU.
Yep.
And then I read on the rundown that Will's like, yeah, not so fast, Sarah. So why should we not be excited?
Yeah, so I guess was it Monday, Tuesday this week? Amy Pascal, who is the Spider-Man producer on the Sony side of the house, and she's been with the franchise going back to the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, directed by Sam Raimi. So she had an interview with Fandango. Oh yeah, it was Monday because it was when the advanced ticket sales started. So had an interview with Fandango, and they were just asking a bunch of questions, and and they put it out there. So what's going to happen with the franchise and stuff, and she basically said, well, we are confirms that Tom Holland's going to be around for some future Spider-Mans, and I'll read her exact quote. This is not the last movie that we are going to make with Marvel. This is not the last Spider-Man movie. We're getting ready to make the next Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland and Marvel. We're thinking of this as 3 films, and now we're going to go on to the next 3. This is not the last of our MCU movies. That's in quote. So, and there was much rejoicing. I mean, and of course, obviously ticket sales have been going off the roof. I mean, all the Fandango and all the ticket sites surpassing Endgame at this point.
Right.
And then later in the day, the Hollywood Reporter drops a story, also referencing Amy's interview with Fandango. But then in the Hollywood Reporter story, they're like, they reached out to Marvel and Kevin Feige, and their sources are like, no, there's nothing on the, yes, we're having, there is some discussions, but nothing has been confirmed, essentially.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This isn't the first time we've had this issue with Marvel where it's like, yeah, we're still negotiating.
Yeah. And it was Amy and Kevin the last time. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even Amy Pascal talking before things have been confirmed. Like, this is the dance. We know how the dance ends. And I was not surprised initially when she gave that statement. And everyone was talking about it, because way back when you mentioned how it came out that I think it was even Tom Holland who said, like, this is the last of the MCU trilogy. I was already thinking, and I'm not the most optimistic person in the world.
Right.
So my thought surprisingly was, okay, I think we are misinterpreting him. I think that what he's saying is this trilogy has concluded.
Yeah.
And there might be another trilogy or another saga in this universe. But just like the fact that they started this show or this franchise when he was a freshman, sophomore, and like every year, like, and for whatever reason, we love our trilogies in this genre.
We do.
So, and it just made more sense when I saw that second trailer that spoiled everything, where they talked about like the ghost of Spider-Man coming back to haunt Spidey. And I think there's something very poetic about that being a final chapter, but maybe not, like, just because one chapter's ending doesn't mean that we necessarily won't get another story.
Right. Yeah, I do recall that, because I think it was maybe earlier. Yeah, I guess it was back in the summer, I think, when Tom Holland had an interview, and you're right. I think people did take it like, oh yeah, because his contract's ending with Marvel, but even with that, I've seen different things, because I've seen where the contract is ending, but he still has one more Marvel film. So I'm trying to figure out, like, so will he have a cameo in one of these upcoming, other projects?
Yeah.
But
at the end of the day, maybe Amy Pascal is just a genius.
Yeah.
Like, really, I'm going to have an interview and I'm going to say something, and then tickets are going to go on sale for this movie. And I'm going to get the edge to better negotiate with Marvel, because this thing will be a blockbuster. In arguably one of, like we haven't had a blockbuster.
Yeah. I mean,
we haven't had a blockbuster in 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of leverage to go into negotiations. So, and even though Marvel, the MCU is what the MCU is, they've released 2-3 movies during this whole COVID year. And they have yet to have like what they're used to having or seen in receipts.
Right.
So maybe she's just really smart.
Maybe she is. I mean, but I know they did manage, because but she got ahead of herself the last time when they had all these discussions, and then Kevin Feige had to like walk it back a bit, and then they were able to come to an agreement. But you're right.
And maybe that's what she's thinking. She's like, yeah, we'll renegotiate, but
yeah, and
she's like, I know how this is going to end, because at the end of the day, Spidey belongs in the MCU, and Tom Holland is not at that point with this character where he's willing to walk away. Like, I think there would be a different conversation if it was Tom who was like, guys, I've done my movies, I'm out.
Yeah, he's not 35 yet, so he's he's got 10 good years left to play this character. Based off of his own words, like he was. I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, if I'm playing Spider-Man when I'm 35, something's wrong. But
maybe. I mean, the kid has a baby face, so
he does. He totally does. So he could definitely at 35, he could still play Spidey at 30. So, but I think. if the person that's coming out with the best of all this is Tom,
Mhm.
Zendaya, and Jason, because now if they are, when they go into their next contract negotiations for the next set of films, whether it's a trilogy or one off or whatever, they could just, Sony and Marvel are going to have to back up the Brinks truck to like to pay these guys because so
Yeah,
and that's why Kevin Feige's probably like, no, things we haven't decided things yet. He's like, God,
maybe.
he's like, damn it, Amy, you did it to us again.
Maybe. I don't know. I get this impression that Tom is is not necessarily in it, but like I don't think you know what happened with all of the actors who were in Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
And they came in with the best intentions about and wanting to be a part of the franchise, and they came out and they're like, yeah, you'd have to pay me a shit ton of money to go back in.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't believe Tom has had that experience, but actors in their negotiation for money never surprise me either. So
True. Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
look,
know.
yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. I mean,
Maybe
look,
it'll depend on how successful that video game movie he's in is.
I don't think it was that successful. So, or will
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
In other, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say to your point about negotiations and how things do go funky. I mean, just look at Scarlett Johansson. I mean, she went from suing them over the whole streaming stuff to basically now being a producer for a future MCU film. So hey, things just have a way of working out. So
I like it is night and day, the controversies and the scandals that come out of Marvel versus DC.
Yeah, for sure.
And how things are resolved.
Yeah.
Like it's a big headline. There's all this anxiety, and then before you know it, it's like, yeah, we're best friends. We just had a fight.
Yeah.
And we're back to being best friends. We hashed it out.
Yep, we patched things up. Yeah.
Like, and then DC's like, yeah, you're dead to me.
Yeah, Henry. Yeah, I mean, poor Henry Cavill. I mean, he's like, I'm here. I want to wear the suit, and yeah, they're like, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. In other MCU news, Colby Smulders, who portrays Agent Maria Hill in the universe, is coming to Secret Invasion. This is another Disney Plus live action show, correct?
Correct.
It's live action. It's not animated.
It's definitely live action. I think she's in it. Of course, Ben Mendelsohn and Sam Bell are back. I think isn't it Olivia Colman, if I recall? Wasn't she also cast?
Yeah.
In this as well. And so I think they are. If they haven't started production, I think they're starting maybe the first of next year.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I remember all of the Marvel Disney Plus show announcements way back.
Mm-hmm.
You would be surprised by the number of them that I had it in my head was going to be an animated TV. I thought Loki was animated. I thought Secret Invasion was animated. For some reason, I had it in my head for a while Miss Marvel was going to be.
Yeah, fair enough.
There was something about the announcement where my mind, I think I got really confused when What If was like, oh, it'll be animated.
Yeah.
And then that's all I heard.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, that was like what Comic-Con, like 2-3 years ago. So I mean, it's easy to they all start to run together after a while.
Well, maybe not, because we haven't really had a true Comic-Con in a while.
True. Yeah.
We had one amazing fandom, an okay fandom, and some other BS, but not a true Comic-Con experience.
For sure.
Or maybe I'm just getting old because my memory, I watched Batwoman season finale. I did,
Mm-hmm.
Will. I really did. And I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I just I remember the structure of it.
Yeah.
This whole Jet Joker storyline, oh my god, it's so cringy to me. It just cringy. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I was making some notes today for tonight, and I think our show that we recorded maybe 2 weeks ago, with not only the Jet Joker thing, but just I'm still having at my core my big problem with this season of Batwoman. Yes, it's enjoyable. They're fun episodes to watch. I but at the end of the day, I feel kind of like, well, we have these we have the knockoff of the original as far as the villains, and I think, and and what made Batwoman has such an impressive rogues gallery of her own. Obviously, Alice being number one, but then there's other like Nocturna and Wolf Spider, who he shows up. He basically he has shown up in Batwoman, and there's some others as well. But to do this thing where with, like, for example, as Marquise as this version of Joker, Joker, it kind of undermines the spirit of that character by having this kind of this knockoff Joker whose motivations, which I did like the way they ended the mid-season finale with him, making it personal and basically all the things that his mother actually had intended to do as far as the hostile takeover of Wayne Enterprises. He ended up doing it. I thought that was a good. I enjoyed that little twist with the characters, but at the end of the day, I just feel like, let's get out of the shadow of Batman. Let's really make this wholly about Batwoman instead of having this shadow of Batman on everything that goes on in this series.
I think that it's strange because they are trying to infuse all of this mythos into a story about Ryan as Batwoman, because the knockoff Joker is her brother. But it was such a weird way where you have this initial start of this interesting angle about a daughter who's always wanted a mom, finds out her mom is still alive, and she has a brother only to be rejected. And then and you're right, like her mom wanted to do the initial hostile, but I guess like that creepy pig episode was the turning point, and suddenly Ryan's mama's girl. And it was such a weird twist. Like for episodes, they were enemies, and then all of a sudden, I think that was the misstep. I think they rushed that change. And like you're right. The ending scene was good. However, the whole I'm freezing you and I'm gonna knock you out, and then now you're being frozen alive and you are clearly awake. Like, he's talking to you. Put him back to sleep. Like, what the fuck? It's torture.
I agree. I mean, it was. Oh, like, okay.
It was bad. Like, it was bad. I mean, Alice and Mary saved the show. Right now for me.
They really are. They really are.
They're entertaining. They have this interesting dynamic going on. I like that we spent majority of the episode without Poison Ivy. And it was really Mary coming to terms and Alice talking Mary into allowing herself to be bad. I thought that was good. And even though the whole Joker thing is cringeworthy, I wonder if combining those two together will help elevate that other storyline. And we'll see what happens. But it's, I mean, you already hit it spot on. Like, this is a show that's supposed to be about Batwoman. And their attempts so far to make it about Ryan have been somewhat lackluster.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because they could have had the same structural things with Brian and her mother and the whole jet and all the the takeover and all that kind of stuff, and not had all these, like, again, use her rogue gallery, use create this, they've taken liberties before, and maybe created, like, for example, characters who may have not been in the comics, and then, like, Joe West for the Flash, for example. I mean, they created that character for the TV show, and then and over time that character actually bled into the comics. And you could do the same thing with Batwoman. You don't have to, like, I won't beat this horse anymore, but with the shadow of the bat. But
well, maybe it's because Ryan is not from the books.
True. There you
so
go.
They feel like they've already done that.
Yeah.
Created a character, and they're trying to like almost immerse her into the mythos by bringing all of these well-known characters into her world.
That's a good point.
Granted, like, then bring the actual characters. Don't bring the knockoffs, because all you're doing is saying, like, oh, well, this our Batwoman is not technically the original Batwoman, and so she's the knockoff, and so we're just going to give her knockoff villains. It's like, you're not helping yourself.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Very good point.
No, Poison Mary is not a knockoff. She's the only acceptable one.
Yep. Yeah, but I think there's a good threads there that I think the back half of the season, and to your point, how compressed everything is, because they do only have 13 episodes this year, and I think they're learning how to produce a show where they don't have 18 to 20 episodes to tell a story. So, which I think, I think our streaming partners have figured out how to structure things. We'll talk about that with Hawkeye, but I think CW is still in that old traditional broadcast model. So, I think they're still learning how to streamline things and pace it right, and make that things escalate in a believable way. Because you're right. The pig episode with Pigman definitely seemed to be too fast, and even in universe, Sophie, was like, I think it was like a meta moment where they were like, yeah, even in universe, we realized that things are going too fast.
Yeah. The whole Sophie stuff is also just annoying.
Yeah.
But
such a waste.
She doesn't have a job, okay?
Yeah.
And it's so weird to me.
Yeah.
Her job is to babysit Alice, but I still don't understand it. I don't get it. Anyways, like, besides my fatigue on this episode of Batwoman, the Flash this week. Okay, this week you're probably gonna laugh at me and say, Sarah, that was so intentional. But majority of this episode, I was thinking to myself, okay, did I fall asleep last season? When did Joe die? And if that's intentional, if they wanted viewers to start even questioning themselves, like Barry did for a bit, it's like, okay, you got me.
Yeah.
It still wasn't the best episode ever, but yeah, you did get me where I was just like, man, I thought I was at least tracking things, but I forgot Joe died.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say I like this week's. I like this week's episode. No, actually, I like last week's episode a little better than this week's. Just because, I think, and I was chatting with some of our listeners on my timeline earlier this week after the third episode, and part of my problem with this show is I'm not invested in the supporting characters the way I was with the original. supporting characters. I mean, I know we still have Caitlin still around, well, Iris is the lead, but you know, I felt a little bit better about Allegra this week, actually, as far as how to utilize her in the story. But Cecile and the whole thing between her and Iris and the battle out as far as, trying to ferret out what, some people are like, praising Danny Nicolette's performance. I found it like way over the top, like just rubbed me the wrong way just in so many ways. And then also, and also just in universe, just like, how she was lecturing out Iris about, her own Iris's father. And I'm glad, when I was watching the back and forth between Iris and Cecile, I was like, yeah, Iris, you tell that woman, tell her, like, look, it's my dad. I mean, remember who you're talking to here. And so,
Right.
and so I was like, I actually gave them plus marks. Damn right, Iris, you tell her what's going on here. And then later on in the episode, how they utilize Allegra to, and even bringing back the Time Force guy, where I was just like, oh God, season 7 had reared its face, but but it served a good purpose this week, as far as all the torture, the torture that I went through last season watching this show. I was like, okay, and just from being a fan of the comic and understanding, like, Iris being from the future herself, and at least one origin story and all, and how, on the one hand I was just like, well, dang, everybody's having some powers, but on the other hand I was like, well, this is, Iris even in the comic wasn't like, when she was born to Ira West, she was actually adopted kid from the future herself. So I mean, I see what they're doing as far as this in-universe things with the Flash. Yeah. So, overall, I'm really liking the Armageddon storyline. It's just like, but it's, it's the nitpicks that we've had over time still rear their heads. But I think, as I said, I think part of the problem for me is just that I'm not fully invested in the new supporting characters that they have on the show. Maybe over time I'll get to that place, but I'm still growing and to deal with them.
Yeah. See, I don't really care about, like I'm with you. I don't really care about the new Flash squad. It's Cecile, always, it comes out of left field for me whenever she is around Team Flash. I'm like, oh yeah, you are meta. But
Yeah.
when did you come? I don't, how did you get here?
Yeah.
Who are you again? And also, where the heck is your baby?
Yes.
At
least they mentioned her this week.
Yeah. It's so weird.
Yeah.
And why isn't your baby growing? Because I feel like you've had a newborn for years.
Yeah. They should be showing up. Yeah.
But I think the intent for, and why they're having this big 5-hour Flash event, is to almost get viewers reinvested into Barry.
Yeah.
Because, like, we've seen him for years now, and like we always make jokes about Wells, and yes, Wells does show up. We knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But Barry just repeats the same mistakes over and over and over again. And so I'm more curious of how this plays out, as if, like, we see how Barry has grown and what the next chapter will come in March, because some of the beats that they're hitting right now, I'm like, I still have seen this before.
Yeah.
I've seen Barry have a lot of bad days, all at the manipulation of the Reverse Flash.
Right.
So if that's where we're headed, then I'm sorry, it was done better in earlier seasons. So show me something new.
Yeah.
So I'm more curious about where this leaves us and these characters that will make us anticipate the March return even more.
Yeah. Well, I think I liked the way, the last 5 minutes of the third part really, I think, for me as a fan of the comic, and and it made sense for Thawne to be the one manipulating everything again, and especially picking up from given that after Barry embarrassed them with Godspeed at the end of season 7.
Mm-hmm.
And letting him go, he was definitely going to come and figure out, like, what can I do to fuck up Barry's life now? And so, so I love the fact that they use something from the comics, which where Thawne did change up things to try to get Iris's affections and to get Iris to marry him. And so, and then I even thought back to like season 3, like with Barry, with them trying to, like, basically now in this new timeline that Thawne has created, and probably in the negative Speed Force or whatever. How start thinking back to season 3 with Savitar Barry, basically could be considered, maybe this is the origin story for that version of Barry that we saw in that 3rd season, as far as the being a reverse Flash himself. Mm-hmm. in Thawne's new world, and then and then tying that into, like, with in the comic, Thawne actually kills Iris. And so, doing, having that being Barry being the one doing it now, tying it back to the 3rd season. So there's that. I was wondering how they were going to integrate Batwoman into the story, and it seems like, it looks like Thawne and in this universe, their version of the Justice League is, obviously at the end of the episode was there at the engagement ceremony and stuff, and and all the little details too, with the golden engagement ring that Thawne gave to Iris, and so you're right. I hope, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is, like, sort of how they get us. You're right. The goal is to get us re-engaged with Barry. And by switching the narrative around now, where Thawne, Thawne has always seen himself as a hero, so now we're actually getting to see that play out in the last 2 episodes of Armageddon, and Barry basically writing the timeline, as he tries to solve this, and I love the way they utilize Jefferson, mm-hmm. In this 3rd episode, because it kind of got teased that I thought Black Lightning was going to show up, it'd have a larger part in the 2nd episode, and he only showed up like the last minute. But
yep.
But the Injustice Protocol that they set up, and using, and Jefferson, basically playing that role of Oliver, and even Joe, knocking some sense into Barry, I thought was very, very effective.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So on that note, we head back to the MCU with the first 3 episodes of Hawkeye, as we try to get ourselves invested in, wow, I'm blanking on her name. Who's
Kate Bishop?
Haley Steinfeld play.
Kate Bishop, yeah. I can tell you're not really feeling this series, because it's like, the rundown has the least amount of notes. It's the Hawkeye section.
I watched everything. Like the second that. Okay, so first of all, the episodes go by really quickly. Mm-hmm. Not a bad thing, but also a kind of confusing thing, because I want to at least be invested enough to where I feel like I'm paying attention, but I found myself doing other things while watching this show. Mm-hmm. Just because it felt very, I've seen this before. And it didn't help that I've seen Edge of 17, and Haley Steinfeld is playing the same character. Like it's just, It's annoying to me because I'm just like, I wanted to know Kate Bishop, and I don't know her from the comic books,
Mhm.
but I wanted Haley to bring some of that dorkiness, but add on some toughness and seriousness. And it just was an awkward teenage, like a spoiled brat. And that's another thing that drives me crazy about that character is they just harp on the fact that she is rich, that comes from money, and she's been spoiled and has had a lot of stuff handed to her. Yeah, she lost her father. I don't think her father's dead.
No.
But I still feel as though she's basically a character from Gossip Girl who just was planted in the MCU and given a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And that might be harsh, but yeah. I'm tired, and these thoughts are just coming to my mind, Will, and I just keep talking.
No. You're, because consider, I think, I'm glad that you have the contrary opinion, because, it seems that, a lot of the things as far as in the chattering class, like that we're in, it's like, oh, Kate Bishop, she's the wonderful, she's this, she's that, the other. And even, just seeing other just general reactions from folks. I agree with you to a point, as far as the spoiled rich kid and stuff. I think where the character excels for me in this show is whenever, especially this third episode, really like highlighted the whenever she and Jeremy Renner play off the banter.
Yeah.
I think that's when I feel like I get to know Kate as a person beyond the, and it was actually a good thing that this third episode, mom and stepdad were not really around, because I think it we really, I felt like the one thing about these Disney Plus MCU shows is really the third episode, I think, has been the pivotal one in the series. Now that we've had what this is our fourth.
No, this is only our third.
Yeah, let's see. So we had WandaVision.
Oh, you mean series?
Series, yeah. Yeah. So as far as in the live action, this is our fourth one as far as live action.
Yeah, WandaVision, it took us a bit longer.
Yeah, true.
And I agree with you. The banter between these two actors is good. I still have seen this banter before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm waiting for that evolution, and maybe they're holding back because Kate isn't an Avenger.
Right.
And they are trying to like show us Hawkeye still mourning the loss of Natasha.
Mm-hmm.
And finds himself protecting this girl,
right,
who has the potential to fill that void.
Yes, fill the void. Yeah.
And I know as soon as Florence Pugh shows up, I'm gonna be like, hell yes, because Florence. Sorry, Haley. Florence like took that character in Black Widow. And yeah, that's Florence Pugh, but that's a different character. That's a different side of her. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really interested in that. Echo stole the episode.
Totally.
Especially the sound design between her and Hawkeye, and I like that. They were going to do this from the beginning because they planted the seeds about him having that hearing aid and everything. But he also didn't immediately, he knows some sign language, but he's not fluent.
No.
That would have been far-fetched. No. And I think overall, for me, Jeremy Renner is really the backbone of the show so far, because and maybe it's because I'm familiar with him. And I'm familiar with this character, but I find the PTSD angle really interesting, because we didn't get a lot of PTSD Bucky and Sam, you know.
That's true. We really didn't. We really didn't.
And we got some with Wanda. She went a bit crazy because of it.
Right. Yeah.
And hers was mainly about grief. And it makes sense because before being an Avenger, he was a spy. You know, he was a war. He knows this idea of losing people. But I don't think he ever expected to have to sacrifice his friend in order to get his family back.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that's and I guess where I'm really liking this series is because of what you just pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, 'cause I know we were just talking a little bit last night about, you know, I was saying it feels more grounded and yeah, it is street level grounded, you know, and it's not like these big cosmic things that that the universe is at play like we saw in Loki and you know, and even in WandaVision as well and all that. I like that we are we were introduced, and because I mean the family thing for Clint is actually a creation of the MCU. I mean, because Hawkeye in a comic does not have a family like this.
Yeah.
And so I think it gives some added depth to this character. And I know we kind of laughed, I think maybe during our What If discussion about how integral Clint Barton is to the Avengers, the everyman, the average Joe.
Clint and Natasha.
Yeah, and Natasha, exactly. Because they don't have superpowers and stuff, but you know, when I think back, you know, when you think back to the first Avengers and you know, he was the one who was first, you know, infected by Loki, and the Clint and Natasha were the ones who, you know, like you said, you know, in the end of the day, you know, he had to sacrifice her to get the tone.
Yeah.
And to set things right. So I mean, they've always been like this sort of seminal moments in the MCU has been centered around Clint and Natasha.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing how much a joke he was in the first Avengers movie to now he has his own TV show.
Yeah,
and the ties. And I mean, all of these TV shows have done this. They've taken the quote unquote B-list characters, elevated them, explained and showed us their perspective about events that we're aware of occurred. But we find more humanity in them because we're seeing it through their eyes, seeing the consequences, the ramifications through their eyes, and that makes us feel like they're more three-dimensional. And on top of that, they're trying to introduce us to new characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the end of this, I hope that we lose the annoying, I want to be a hero too, I need a daddy figure person portrayal that currently is happening with Kate Bishop, and she comes into her own. I'm sure that's the entire arc.
Yeah.
But I just, you know, I don't know. There was just something about it where I just was like, okay, there's nothing interesting happening.
Well, I will. The first two episodes, I will give you that. I mean, I think the first episode was just sort of setting things up, and then of course, I did fall down the rabbit hole and listened to the full 4 minutes "Save the City" song. I was just like,
of course you did.
I was like, yeah, I did it. I actually had it on a loop this morning as I was driving to work. I was like, well, but it's like Hamilton, you know. It's like it's that, you know, it just sort of kind of gets into your head, and you just Anyway, I digress. But the first episode was like, okay, but they do go by so quick, and I like the way they end them. But I really enjoyed the second episode when Renner. I think the thing that stood out for me in that second episode was when he was trying to get the Ronin costume back and having to fight the cosplayers, and and then but then they they introduce Echo at the end, but but the way it was kind of like it wasn't like an earth shattering movement, but then I love the way they started with the third episode with going into her backstory and introducing her and the uncle, and of course everybody all of nerddom was super excited with the uncle. I mean, with the Kingpin showing up. I mean, it's like all everybody's fan theories. And Netflix. I don't know if it's going to be the Netflix version of Kingpin, but from the Marvel shows there. But he is now in this universe. But also seeing.
Don't tell me that, because now I'm just like, Charlie Cox, let's go.
Well, I mean, this if Daredevil does show up in No Way Home, I mean, this is the way that they first introduced it through Hawkeye. So and that makes sense why they put this show on now versus say Miss Marvel.
Oh, Will, you're giving me too many things to spiral about, and probably none of it will come true. So
yeah, true. All right, I'll stop. I'll stop at that point.
Stop the hype.
No, okay, I'll stop there about Kingpin. But I will say this: that given that we do know Echo is going to have their own show, and to your point about how you hope to see the evolution of Kate from being a spoiled kid whose own mother has said, "Look, you everything gets handed to you."
Right.
I think the reason bringing up Kingpin for me was more one, obviously the excitement, right, but also seeing the evolution of Echo from being an enemy to potentially a good an ally to Clint and Kate down the road, because
well, I think they're going to do a little of that in this show.
Yeah.
And then that's what's going to prompt, like, there's going to be something that happens that, like, they were able to build upon for her season. I think we're going to get that turn.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, her motivations are going to be more fleshed out in her show.
Yeah. Maybe finding out that it was the uncle who was behind her father's death, not the Ronin. Or he set things into play where Ronan or Clint did, this happened to maybe tipped him off to where the little garage was at where her father was killed. So
yeah. I mean, you just lowered my hype, because I'm like, God, what is with all of this miscommunication? Like, people manipulating others, and it's just like, okay, guys, you've been in this world long enough. You should know. Pretty clear, but
yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, it's all right. I just, you've heard my complaints about it. You've heard Will trying to reel me back in. And I'm not going anywhere. Like, Marvel's Marvel, and Feige we trust. And we're gonna see this through, and then we're gonna go see No Way Home, and then we're just gonna be spoiled until the next MCU thing happens. But any other thoughts, Will?
No, just talking to you about you. I feel like I'm talking to the mirror here, because this is how I was at the beginning of the year with WandaVision. And then by the end, I loved it.
I was with you at the beginning. Like, we were both kind of like, okay, we know what they're doing. We're just not sold yet. And and I still think the finale is shit. But the second to last episode is what made that show.
True. And
but still, on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK on Twitter.
And you can find me on Twitter at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN Nerd, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.snnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.